So apparently the charlatan attitude of J. Israel had afforded us the privilege once again to be able to spot some inaccuracy in some of the things about Damina teaching. So recently, J. Israel, as usual, wanted to trend, and in an attempt to do that, he decided to attack the person of Damina and Arome Osayi. Now, what he said is not even my concern, because obviously I decided to neglect him, knowing the kind of person that J. Israel is. But what actually drew my attention was when Damina, as usual, decided to respond to J. Israel. In an attempt to respond to J. Israel, he said some things which obviously contradicted some of his doctrinal position, which you've got to see him push out recently. So what is this? Now, I'm very sure if you have been with us on this platform, you would have seen that was time we did a video when Damina was seen saying this.
Let's look at the very end after several offerings of Abraham. He now said in Genesis 22 verse 1 and 2. Read for me Genesis 22 verse 1 and 2. Genesis 22 1 and 2.
And it came to pass after these things that God did tempt Abraham and said unto him, Abraham. And he said, Behold, here I am.
Next verse.
And he said, Take now thy son, thine only son Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him therefore a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell thee of.
Now, they are now just talking. They are just talking. No animal, nothing. And again, the way Moses explained this, it will shield you from what is going on. Moses' mode of communication here will veil you from what is really going on. You know, Moses spoke Chida. He spoke in a Chida. He spoke in a parable, a figure of speech. Like God, you know, the way he painted the picture is like God is trying Abraham. Then when Abraham now brought the knife to kill the son, God said, Stop. I cannot try again. Oh. Now I know. I, Jehovah, now I know. Are you sure you're Jehovah? Are you sure you're Jehovah and you didn't know before? It is now you are knowing after Abraham has acted. What kind of Jehovah are you? If you are Jehovah, you didn't need Abraham to do anything for you to know, because Jehovah should know the end from the beginning and the beginning from the end. Huh? Now I know that you love me. And if, no. It's the way Moses communicated, because Moses was speaking in a Chida. Before they got there, Abraham's high servants said to Abraham, Sir, and he said, Gentlemen, stay here. Follow this. Gentlemen, stay here. I and the young lad shall go yonder to worship, and we will be back. He didn't say we may be back. So Abraham already knew from the time they left home that he was not going to do anything to Isaac. So that will not be a test.
And of course, it's also a well-known fact that he is one person that has been championed, the once saved, forever saved. But I found it quite strange, okay, when I was able to spot two words in his response to the charlatan J. Israel, which obviously contradicted these two positions of his doctrine, the once saved, forever saved doctrine, and also the fact that God doesn't test a man. Let's have a listen.
There's one young man in South Africa, I think he may be in Zimbabwe now or somewhere, who came to me some time back and said he has started preaching Christ now. He wants to preach only Christ only, nobody but Christ only. And he started what he called a movement. Then it started biting hard. He started fighting all the false prophets and everybody he could attack, and things became dry. When things became dry, he reached out to me. And when he reached out to me, he started looking for how I can assist him. I assisted him a few times financially. I sent him money just to encourage him. He said, you know, because I'm no more preaching those other things now, things are so tough and I'm getting tempted to go back. I said, no, don't go back. So this young man said, no, I want to preach Christ. I want to preach Christ. But I looked at him. In fact, he even told me he wants to come to Uyo and just stay under me and do anything I want him to do. I said, no. Instead of you coming to Uyo, you say you don't have money for you and your mother and your family people. You people are struggling from rent. I paid their rent for them. See, when you decide to worship an idol, what you're telling God is, I don't recognize you. So God will have to stay away.
Now, hold on. Did you just assert that God can actually leave a man? Because if that is what it's saying, it obviously negates the once saved, forever saved as people has come to know it. But before I even talk a bit on that, let's continue to see the other aspect of what he said, which obviously contradicts his stand position.
Look at me, everybody. An idol worship here doesn't have to do with going to the village or going to the bush to pursue a shrine. Idol worship can be worship of money. Mammon is an idol. That's why you cannot worship God and mammon. And you know, one of the problem a lot of young men who are saying they want to preach Christocentric message have is the fact that they have not defeated mammon. So when they start preaching the Christocentric message and it begins to bite, because you can't be preaching Christ and be chasing money in the gospel. You can't be preaching Christ and be using the same Bible to extract money from people. It will not work. All right, Christ is light. He will expose you yourself. So when they now start the Christocentric message and they start preaching Christ has finished it all, Christ has finished the work, you are saved, you are justified, then they don't find scriptures to twist and collect money. And then they begin to go through a trying time, because in ministry you will go through a trying time where God will check your motives. He will check your intentions. He will check your conviction. You're not hearing me. You know, the way he painted the picture is like God is trying Abraham. Then when Abraham now brought the knife to kill the son, God says, stop. I cannot try again. Oh. Now I know. I, Jehovah, now I know. Are you sure you're Jehovah? Are you sure you're Jehovah and you didn't know before? It is now you are knowing, after Abraham has acted. He will check your motive, your intention, and your conviction. And if you're a minister of the gospel watching, this will help you. He will test your convictions, your motives, and your intentions over a period of time to see whether you are really convinced about this message. If you are not, you start twisting the slant. How many of you have seen some of them out there?
Hold on. Did he just say God will test a minister? I mean, this was a man recently that said, drawing a sample from Abraham, that how can God say, now I know? And if it be the Alpha and the Omega, he's supposed to know the capability, the ability of a man, then why would he want to test his ministers? Perhaps, obviously, maybe a year is just only twisting to the weather, because of a truth we have seen several in scriptures that God indeed do test a man. And here again, he's also teaching his congregation that God will test you for a period of time to actually see your conviction. So why the contradictions? Yeah. Why the contradiction? You know, when I first of all heard him say this, I had to quickly look at the video again to be sure that this is not an old video. Perhaps this was not when he was into what Reverend Gideon called Pentecostal voodooism. But this is a recent message because he was responding to J. Israel. And he turns around again to rewrite his theology that if you be a minister, God will test you for a period of time to see your convictions. You know, you have to understand that God is the Alpha and the Omega. And in instances where we get to pass through God's test, it's so that God can allow us to make choices and decisions. Those tests is just in a way for us to come to the point whereby we make choices and decisions, because those are choices and decisions actually matters. It's just like coming to the point of salvation. When God has said, I lay before you life and death, but you should choose life. Is that not God testing a man? So you can actually see these little things. You might not consider it, and as a matter of fact, I understand some of his members might even want to come down here to begin to defend it, but it's good and fine. I'm just trying to show you some of these little inaccuracies, and that's it to tell you, no man is infallible. All right, so speaking about the one saved, forever saved, and here we saw him obviously asserting to what we have been saying. The fact that God, Jesus, has in himself the ability to save man once and forever to the uttermost does not mean salvation is once saved and forever saved. Because obviously, when you get born again, God is not a dictator God that He will have to force salvation upon you and say, since you have come into me, you must remain in me. There are obvious ways man can deny God, and those things are reflected in our actions and decisions. So you cannot say because you have received Christ that you are saved once and forever, then you go about living your life. Your actions and your inaction actually determines the inclinations of your heart. So a man can come and say, I've given my life to Christ Jesus, and he turns around and starts living a life that totally negates the tenets and teachings of Christ. Do you think God will now impose himself on that person and say, you have been saved, forever you should be saved? When obviously in your actions, you have denied God. Just like he said, if by your action you deny God, what God will do, God will just silently leave you alone. At best, God will always keep coming to remind you, knock at your heart, always knocking at your heart to see that if you, as a prodigal son, will come back. The Bible is speaking here, he said, wherefore he is able also to save them to the uttermost that come unto God by him. So you can see, salvation does not just stop at believing. There is still a continual work that Christ will have to do on that person in order to bring that salvation to the finish. And how does he do this? He does this by making intercession for them. Now, mark the word, Jesus maketh intercession. And who does he make intercession for? He makes intercession for those who are in him. So the first step is a step whereby you come into him. And the next step is when Jesus now starts with the duty and responsibility to forever make intercession for us. And the essence is so that we will be saved to the uttermost, to the finish. And the essence is so that at last we will be saved to the uttermost. Yes, I understand salvation in itself has the ability, salvation in itself, the package salvation in itself has the ability to save man forever. But that can only be possible as far as you remain in God. And like I said, God is not a dictator God that will say, once you are saved, I will force you to remain saved. No, God will not force that upon any man. By your action, we can deny God, just like he rightly puts. By your action, you can deny God. And when you consistently deny God by your action, what God will just do is just to stay away from you, because you obviously does not want to accept that finished work. So, salvation in itself is a perfect work that can save a man to the uttermost, but it can only save as long as you keep remaining in Christ. And this is where the distinction should be about the grace message, the once saved and forever saved. God is not a dictator God that we have to force salvation on you forever.